the world held its breath as the Ukrainian army reached the borders of Belarus. The news spread like a wildfire across all media outlets, igniting debates and fears of another invasion by Russia. The Ukrainian forces, having improved their intelligence, deciphered Russian leader Vladimir Putin's secret plans. The advanced intelligence of the Ukrainian forces proved itself once again, as they continued to cause great difficulties for the Russian army. The Russian-Ukrainian war was already a year old, and Vladimir Putin had not yet achieved the success he wanted. At the beginning of the war, the Russian army quickly occupied Ukrainian territory, but they had been unable to advance in the face of the development of Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainian army continued to make the best use of aid from Western countries, achieving success in many regions and starting to regain territories dominated by Russian forces. While the whole world thought that Putin's only goal was to capture back the territory of Crimea, it was deciphered that Vladimir Putin actually had a secret plan. With this plan, Putin would enter Ukrainian territory and try to invade after Crimea was captured. However, Ukrainian intelligence revealed this plan, causing a huge outcry around the world. According to intelligence provided by the US intelligence service agents, after Russian leader Vladimir Putin said that he would attempt a new invasion, Ukrainian forces began to investigate where the Russian invaders would carry out these attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry, on the other hand, stated in a statement that they could enter Ukrainian territory with an army of 150,000 people at any time. With Russian citizens, they forcibly included in the army under the name of partial mobilization. While the whole world was wondering where these soldiers were stationed, it turned out that Putin directed these soldiers, who were forcibly included in the army, towards the Belarusian border. After the Russian invaders completely captured the city of Soledar, they attacked the city of Bakhmut in order to focus the attention of Ukrainian forces in this direction. The European army, on the other hand, did not understand this idea and turned to the Bakhmut front with all its defense lines. Putin wanted to turn the situation in his favor and was planning to start the invasion by advancing about 150,000 troops deployed on the border with Belarus. However, as a result of the intelligence carried out with the advanced intelligence of the US and Ukrainian forces, many soldiers and military equipment were shipped to Russia's border with battles. Putin started to mass troops in Belarus, waiting for news from the Bakhmut front. The Russian army, which increased the intensity in Bakhmut, was going to start the operation after the Ukrainian forces completely focused their attention on this region. Both the US and Ukrainian intelligence did not allow this, and with the order of Russian leader Vladimir Putin, the army of 150,000 people waiting ready in Russia mobilized towards the Belarusian border. While Vladimir Putin made a statement recently stating that they would organize a joint military exercise with Belarus in order to draw attention to this operation and that Belarusian soldiers would be trained, the reason why Putin made the statement was seen as Russia's military shipment to Belarus was still to be for exercise purposes. However, with new information received, the number of soldiers sent by Putin was so high that no one believed that this military shipment was for exercises. It turned out that these troops were not deployed for exercises, but for a new invasion attempt. The US government used its advanced intelligence and satellite imagery to inform Ukrainian forces that the Russian army was on its way to the Belarusian border with a large number of tanks, armored vehicles, and S-400 air defense systems. Countries that know that such a military force will not be transported over long distances for an exercise have increased their suspicions considerably with the situation. While Putin was careful not to stand out by sending military shipments at intervals which he characterizes as exercises, there are currently 30,000 Russian invaders on the Ukrainian border with Belarus. Following this intelligence received from the US government, the Ukrainian army has directed the military support it has sent to Bakhmut and many other regions to the Belarusian border. It is estimated that about 50,000 rally troops have been deployed on the Ukrainian-Belarusian border. Even though the whole world thinks that the war between Russia and Ukraine is coming to an end, new threats are emerging. The US and Western countries continue to send a lot of aid to Ukraine. Following T8, the Ukrainian army has started to send the majority of the tanks it received from the US and Germany to the border with Belarus, where the Russian invaders are based. 25 Abrams tanks and 15 Leopard 2 tanks, along with Leopard tanks provided by Polish government to the Ukrainian army, have been deployed to the border with battles. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, has moved towards the city of Ulrich. which is located on the Russian border of Ukraine with an army of approximately 50,000 people. Arguing that this is the best area to respond to any move by the Russian invaders, Ukrainian forces have started to install many air defense systems in the region. Ukrainian troops will first establish defense positions in this region. After the deployment of defense lines and troops here, Volodymyr Zelensky called the Ukrainian people living in the oil-rich region to the capital Kyiv for security reasons. The Ukrainian army will create a large defense line in this region, which will completely prevent Russian invaders from entering the border. A large number of Ukrainian troops have started building new walls along the Belarusian border, covered with barbed electric wires, which will prevent Russian invaders from easily entering the region. In order to completely destroy the tank sprouts to the Belarusian border on Putin's orders, the Ukrainian army has also started deploying US HIMARS missiles in the region. Not only HIMARS missiles, but the Ukrainian army will also deploy the famous US Patriot missiles in the region for defense purposes. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky plans to deploy HIMARS and Patriot missiles recently acquired from the United States near the border with Belarus in order to counter a new invasion attempt by Russian forces and to prevent Russian armored vehicles and tanks from crossing into Ukrainian territory. Russian leader Vladimir Putin was initially expected to launch this invasion with an army of 500,000 men. However, everyone is aware that Putin needs to declare a new mobilization to reach this number. With this realization, protests have started around the world. As in the previous mobilization decision, the people started to revolt completely. The people of Russia, who see the sending of inexperienced soldiers to the front as suicide attempts, are determined not to allow this. Calls are being made from many parts of the country for Putin to stop the war. The people who could not make their voices heard by Putin started protests around the Kremlin. In the interviews with the people, it is said that this war must end immediately, and if not, these protests will turn into riots. Still cannot forget the reaction he received with the first mobilization declaration. Putin is unable to complete the army of 500,000 people he planned on the border with battles. The Russian army, in need of military personnel, has started to set up a volunteer military service application tents across the country. In this tense atmosphere, Russia is rightfully gathering those who want to go to war voluntarily. These styles of Putin led to protests at many points, such as the first mobilization declaration. Putin has received a call to stop from the whole world, but does not stop the invasion attempts he is carrying out on his personal wishes.